Good morning, YouTube, and welcome to What the Fucking Papers Say with Deek Jackson. And it's been a while. How you doing? I must confess to having been slightly distracted by having a lot of fun in life, and it's hard for me to drag myself back to the nightmare horror that is consensus reality and the mainstream media. But here we go. What the fuck? Because I feel that as every day goes past, I'm missing the opportunity to express myself and put on record that I disagree and that I do not comply. And if you feel the same and you would like to, take part in some kind of minor non-consensus activity, I offer you this small shred of rebellion. Say what you think and express yourself. Dr. Super Genius, good morning. Express yourself to your friends, your family, passers-by, strangers in the street. Get yourself an offensive t-shirt. Don't wear a mask. It is the case in Britain. I don't know about where you live, but in Britain, nobody has to wear a mask. And if anybody says, excuse me, would you mind putting a mask on? You just simply have to say, I'm exempt. And so when I look around and I see all these fucking sheep and bovine fucking zombies actually wearing a mask, I'm forced to conclude two things are possible. First of all, they really are afraid of the fictitious danger. We'll come to the fiction about the danger shortly. And or they just don't have the chutzpah. Bad Banana, good morning. They just don't have the chutzpah. They don't feel emboldened. They don't feel brave enough. They don't feel they have the wide support or they feel too alone. So if you're one of the latter, I'm with you. Don't wear a mask and put the fuckers to the trouble of saying, excuse me, do you have a mask? And then draw out of yourself the courage and the spirit to say, I'm exempt. You don't have to tell them why you're exempt. Just say you're exempt. You're exempt because you're exempt. That's all there is to it. Okay, so on with the show. Today's newspaper is The Independent, which isn't independent. It's owned by a Russian billionaire. And I should preface the show by saying the planet's fucked, it's your fault, and it's getting worse every single time, so that you understand where I'm coming from. Because genuinely, the planet is fucked. Not that the planet's going anywhere. The planet will be here for a long time. By the planet's fucked, I mean metaphorically, the planet you came to rely on, the one that has bountiful agriculture, the one that is productive and supportive of human and other life all over the place. That planet's fucked. It's your fault because you shopped it to fucking death for the last, 100 years, at least 60. And it's getting worse because nobody is doing jack shit about it. I assure you, nothing is being done. In fact, all the shit that's actually fucking the planet up, still going up, still getting worse. Talk. So, meanwhile, back in the nightmare, imaginary fantasy world of the few people who own and control everything, here in Britain, the tracing system is feeling the strain. Coronavirus tracers can now only send one single text message to all of the people whose details they have, all of them. And the picture on today's, the thumbnail on today's show is a picture of the NH app, which says, if you can just read that, you can close this app and it will keep working. Oh, how comforting. I feel better already. You can close this app and it will still transmit all of your data, who you come into contact with, where you went, all the time, to the government, who have your best interests at heart. So rest assured, sleep easy, relax. It's, you're safe. You're safe. We've got you. We've got you right there by the balls, the short and curlies. And another interesting little shot here. The Pope has endorsed same-sex civil unions. I wonder if that was like a a union thing. You know, if the priests came forward and said, boss, we would really like same-sex unions to be legal. You know, given the history of the Catholic Church, that is. So, what's going on in the world? Video app TikTok is strengthening its guidelines in combating hate speech and hateful ideologies. That's freedom of speech to you and me. To include what it calls neighboring ideologies. Interesting. I like that. Neighboring ideologies. Neighboring to freedom of speech. The Chinese-owned company has said it will up its efforts to stem the spread of coded language and symbols. That's free speech. That's what it is. That's free speech. That's just free speech. You saying what you want is free speech. People trying to limit it because they say it's hateful, that's censorship and fascism and totalitarianism. That's what that is. They're not helping you. They're not keeping us safe by shutting people up and stopping people expressing themselves. They're damaging us. The rate of COVID cases in Northern Ireland has slowed considerably since tougher restrictions were introduced, said Health Minister, who said the virus had been growing exponentially with catastrophic consequences. What are those consequences? Capricious, you are awake just now. Good morning, and the time difference must be considerable, so good evening. I would take some Xanax and get your head down if I were you. No, I wouldn't. I'm only kidding. I'd take some ecstasy and go clubbing. Woo! So the catastrophic consequences for Northern Ireland. What are those catastrophic consequences? Dead piling up in the street? No. Dead piling up in hospital? No. In fact, Northern Ireland enjoys no more deaths at this time of the year than it did last year. I mean, you know, far be it from me to try and modify the language of politicians, but catastrophic consequences ought to have a catastrophe in there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Burning plane wreckage, riots in the street, sectarian genocide. No, just a few dead old people in the care homes. It's a catastrophe. It's a total catastrophe, I tell you. Rail deal. This is in Italy, but it's coming to fantasy near you. Rail deal aims to use hydrogen as fuel. Italian rail operator Ferrovie dello Stato is studying using hydrogen for its transport network. They will set up a group to assess the project for replacing fossil fuels on the national rail grid with hydrogen. The thing about that is the fossil fuel company are building refineries to turn methane from natural gas into hydrogen. So it's still a fossil fuel. It's cheaper to extract hydrogen from methane than it is to electrolyze water. And so all of the hydrogen that they're planning to produce here in Britain as well, where they're going to put it into the national grid, it's a fossil fuel. It's not green at all. And all of the carbon released from splitting the methane apart from the hydrogen, that's going into the atmosphere. Just as if you burned it in your fucking V8. It's a lie. The green future, the Green New Deal, the fantasy you can solar power your wank shop, it's a lie. Police seize AK-47s and machine guns. I thought an AK-47 was a machine gun. Obviously the editor has a different idea. Trade deal talks restart as Barnier says EU is willing to compromise. Now, I tried to work up some clever political insight and some slick, sophisticated critique of the UK and EU's current impasse about negotiating Brexit, but all I could come up with was, fuck off, Europe, fuck off. We voted to leave Europe, we're leaving Europe, fuck off. So, you know, you're not having the fish, fuck off, Europe. Social media companies such as Instagram and Facebook should be compelled to label images to say whether the bodies of people in them have been altered to make them look good. MPs have been told. Who told MPs this? Danny Bowman, who developed body dysmorphic disorder after constantly comparing the way he looked with perfect images of people online, said it's a moral responsibility for social media companies to label these images. Danny, I think it's your moral responsibility to find the internet off switch. I think you're a fucking muppet. I think you're a fucking moron, and that it's your problem. But by the way, if social media companies such as Instagram and Facebook ought to do that, how about film, television, magazines, the media? Why not have every image that's been altered? How about we make models appear with a tag on their forehead saying, wearing makeup? Really? The absurdity of this is beyond belief. Danny, get a fucking life. Or get another life. Change your life. Stop going on the internet if you can't handle it. Damning report attacks care of vulnerable patients. This is against the backdrop. Bear in mind, people, we just went trillions and trillions of pounds into debt to save Granny dying 6 months early. Okay? I'm just saying, that's what's happening in this country. Billions of pounds of debt to stop your granny dying 6 months early, right? Loads of money for that shit. I mean, we gave 3 billion away in opaque, untransparent, hidden contracts to friends of the Tory party who just created a medical company to supply the taxpayer with debt. Anyway, many people with learning disabilities or autism receive undignified and inhumane care in the UK. Physical restraint, lack of toilet facilities, segregation, restrictive practices, prevented from visiting, prevented from using the toilets, left in pain, strapped to a bed. For your shared safety. For your shared safety, we have stripped the NHS in this country of resources and handed over all of your money to Just Eat Out to help out, so we could bail out McDonald's in the time of their need, leaving autistic children strapped to a bed pissing their pants. Your Majesty, land of hope and glory. Clap the NHS. Let's have a big hand for the NHS, strapping those autistic children to the bed so they wet themselves in hunger and fear. Yay! Oh, they're our heroes, yeah. You like that? MPs vote against free school meals. MPs voted against a measure to continue giving children living in poverty free school meals during the holidays. The scheme was extended because of a campaign by Manchester United football star Marcus Rashford. See, we need the Manchester's back four to help bring about policies which help children in poverty. I don't know what our politicians were doing. Perhaps we could have Rory McIlroy sort out our care home crisis, and we could have Lewis Hamilton sort out the integrated transport problem of the north of England. So Marcus Rashford campaigned for free school meals for children in poverty in this country for the summer holidays because of coronavirus. That campaign was successful, but now the Tories have voted down an extension to that. Donaldson Day, good morning. Pete, Taz, good morning. MPs have voted that down while they voted to, well, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, has given millions to McDonald's and Weatherspoons and a whole host of other well-deserving rich companies to help them eat out. It's odd that, isn't it, that poverty-stricken children get fuck all massive rich corporations get a giant check from the government. Contact tracers resort to sending just a text message. That's the headline here. But I think that given the detail of what this actually reveals, that should really have said, vast private quangos just have all of your data and know where you are all of the time. Now, we are paying these private corporations huge amounts of money, ostensibly to trace people. Alan McVicker, good morning. Or, hello, good afternoon, wherever you are. So we are giving these private companies to track and trace vast sums of public money. And essentially what they're doing is they're just automating their database to fire off a text message to everyone who downloads the app, while they all go for a long lunch and play golf on Friday afternoon. Money well spent, money well spent. Students fined £10,000 each over a house party. 4 students have been fined £10,000 each. That's going to put a dent in the student debt, isn't it? DJ Beto, good morning. After allegedly accusing police officers of spoiling their fun. The police said, "How many fines do we have to give before the message is understood? We do not take pleasure in handing out fines and would much rather be in a situation where students could enjoy themselves." That's nice of the police. But going on, said Plod, but going on, the reality is that if people do not follow COVID-19 restrictions, more people would die. Sleepy Shoegazer, good morning. Colin McHale. Oh, Colin and Kez. Oh, good morning. Yo, nice to hear from you. I hope you... It must be great being locked on an island. I mean, like, even more isolating than normal. Or not. Still better than being locked in your house. The reality is that if people do not follow the COVID-19 restrictions, more people will die. Wow, that's harsh, isn't it? Like, you've got to do exactly what the government says or more people will die. Wait a minute though. What about your transport? Your car, your van, your train, whatever it is, that kills people. What about your, I don't know, your technology, your laptop, your mobile phone, that kills people. What about, in fact, any aspect of your life which kills people? Your food. How many peasants died in the field picking coffee and tea for you? Perhaps we should I have an idea. Why don't we all just kill ourselves? I'm surprised the police aren't putting forward this. The reality is that if people do not kill themselves, more people will die. Here's my favorite story in this newspaper. Really. Mexico is sending out a strong public health message to avoid big crowds as the annual festival Day of the Dead approaches, which traditionally draws hundreds of thousands of people. The 1st of November, Day of the Dead celebration, is a pre-Hispanic belief that the dead return once a year from the underworld as bright orange marigold flowers are displayed in homes and cemeteries. Authorities have said cemeteries will remain closed, perhaps to stop the dead reappearing. But also, we don't want more people to die because of the Day of the Dead. So, because of the coronavirus fears, no Day of the Dead. We'll have a Day of the Locked Up. You just can't get a good Day of the Dead these days. I mean, what's the world coming to? A non-deadly pandemic stops the Day of the Dead. Diplomacy. This is about America. They usually save news about America for the the center page spread. It's like it's a sort of porno mag, and they save the best bit. Donald Trump is laid out naked on a Russian bed, clenching a rose between his teeth as 2 Ukrainian hookers water sport him. No, sadly, it's not that. But it is a double-page spread. It is about Donald Trump and America. How will the election affect affect the special relationship between America and Britain? Well, I would imagine not at all. I would imagine that after the election, whoever wins and is the president of America, Britain will still be an ass-kicking, an ass-licking cocksucker. Really. And if that's the special relationship, you can keep it. You know, if the next American president decides to bomb some niggers, we'll be right there. If the next American president decides whatever, we'll be right there, because we are like some sort of chained gimp just towing along behind the giant dome of America. School children to tackle climate change reporting. Thousands of school children across the country will try their hand at climate change reporting this winter under a new Sky initiative to boost creative and digital skills of students. This is basically an app that children download from Sky, and they put in their favourite climate change story for Sky to get for free. I mean, really, that's what it is. This is like thousands of school children across the country will supply free content to a media organisation which makes billions. So please do text in your interesting stories, quotes, quips, jokes and observations for fuck all, because Rupert just hasn't got enough bubbly for the shareholders this year. Now, this is an interesting piece by Kate Maltby, who I've never heard of, but she writes for the Eye. Where is the outrage over the murder of Samuel Paty? Okay, this is about the beheading of a French teacher who was beheaded by a Muslim outside of his school after he showed cartoons to his class. And the question she is putting is, where is the outrage over the murder of Samuel Paty? And she writes, she begins with the setup, you know. Yeah, so she barely mentions it, but this guy was a Muslim, and he was basically enacting a form of religious revenge because his religious beliefs do not permit you to have freedom of speech. His religious beliefs should be wholly respected by you, no matter how absurd, outrageous and stupid and dangerous they are. This is the position of Muslim extremists, that no matter what we believe, you should all just shut the fuck up and not point out how fucking bizarre it is to be a Muslim. That's basically Muslim extremism for you. So the thing is, we're not allowed to say anything like that because we, the woke media, would like to believe that we're all going to kumbaya around the fireplace with people who have bizarre, dangerous, fucked up beliefs. So as she's pointing out, metaphorically speaking, or reading between the lines, that we're all doing that. We're all not mentioning that this guy was a rampant Muslim. He didn't kill the teacher because he was a psychopath. Or wait a minute, is being a Muslim extremist a psychopath? Is there a neurosis about religion which makes people with extreme religious beliefs or fundamental religious beliefs basically nut jobs? Essentially, I'm actually saying that. That's not a question. It was more rhetorical. If you have a fundamental and extreme religious belief, you're basically a fucking psycho. And we should not hold back from saying so at all, ever. The concept of free speech has been captured by the hard right, she says, and the left is wary of defending it. I would agree. In fact, the left are fucking stomping all over the concept of free speech with their woke pish. The New York Times ran a tepid story on Paty's death, which carried the stand first. The victim was immediately depicted as a martyr to freedom of expression. Now, the problem with this is you can't attack Trump. You can't attack Trump for talking about how crazy people should be prevented from entering America or doing bad things if you can't support the basic right of teachers not to be murdered. If you want to support the right of teachers not to be murdered, you might start to sound like you're defending Trump. This is her concern. There you go. For some people, defending freedom of expression and even the right of teachers not to be murdered sounds a bit like defending Trump. Wow. Oh, I regret that you are so fucked up if you feel like that. If you feel you can't say Muslim people are fucking nuts because you might be defending Trump, I feel sorry for you. Because Christians, Muslims and Jews, they're all fucking nuts. It's a psychopathy. It's a neurosis. It's a mental illness. And we should not be afraid of saying so, nor should we be beheaded for contravening their bizarre beliefs. Being in denial won't stop climate change happening. True. Okay, never underestimate the power of denial. Trucks transporting oil and gas out of the Arctic are having trouble because the roads are not hard as the permafrost is melting. So the permafrost is melting, the roads through the Arctic that deliver oil and gas for the oil and gas industry can't be used. And apparently the solution is to install cooling systems in the ground to prevent the permafrost from melting and keep the trucks rolling. Yay! Furthermore, the solution to melting glaciers in Europe is to put white blankets on them. And the solution to global warming in general is to pump sulfuric acid, sulfate aerosols actually, not actual sulfuric acid. That would be stupid. The solutions to climate change in general are to pump sulfate aerosols into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight energy and keep the planet cool. At no point is the global fossil-geddon industry proposing they stop burning kerosene in jet engines, petrol and diesel in cars, etc. One airline says in its magazine that they are green and climate neutral because they've changed their light bulbs for LEDs. Fantastic. So this journalist goes on to say at the end, the only way to stop climate change is to stop changing the climate. I have some bad news for you, James Dyke. That's not going to stop climate change because there is a 30-year delay between CO2 being emitted and it having a forced heating effect on the global mean surface temperature, which means that we're only living in 1990 and we have at least, even if you magically waved a magic wand, right, and we went carbon zero, right, net zero right now, in 30 years from now, we would only now be living with the world we have created. So it's too late to simply stop changing the climate. We need to actually reverse climate change. And I have some bad news for you people. I have some bad news for you. That's not possible with 8 billion people on the planet. So step 1, kill 7 billion people. Step 2, take the carbon out of the atmosphere. Step 3, retire to the Caribbean island with some bubbly for the shareholders. Pope Francis calls for same-sex relationships to be given legal recognition. Interesting turn of phrase there. He says legal recognition. He doesn't say. Pope Francis says same-sex relationships are not damned to an eternity of hell by God forever, because that's what the Bible says. He's just calling for them to have a legal recognition, which is nice of him, isn't it? Nice of him. But he does not deny that God thinks you're an abomination and that you should die and live in an eternity of pain and suffering. Nice of the Pope there. All right, well, okay, that's about it for the news. The rest of it is pish about the arts and media, which they have created such a mediocre content of that I can find no entertainment there. Then we have the business news, which is basically planet rape and slavery. Oh, here's an interesting one just before we go. United Airlines is to test a digital health pass under a global pilot program seeking to establish common international standards for COVID-19 test results and eventually vaccine records. Wait a minute. Have I been saying that for a while? I think I've been saying that for a while. I think I've been saying that since the beginning of this pish. Global common international standards for COVID vaccine records that could help reopen borders. The initiative is called Common Pass and is backed by the World Economic Forum. Anybody familiar with my output on the World Economic Forum? They're the people talking about the Great Reset, how we need to change everything about the world because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which isn't killing anyone really. But there you go. There you have it. United Airlines Common Pass. Yeah, it does sound like common purpose. Sounds like Agenda 21. You be living in a wet dream. Honestly, you would be a lucky civilization if you lived under Agenda 21 in 100 years. Honestly, you'll be begging for Agenda 21 in 100 years. You ain't seen nothing yet, people. It ain't weird enough for me yet, and the shit ain't even on the way to the fan yet. Have a great day. I'm going to, and I will see you tomorrow. I am committing to, because I like a challenge, and I feel like I've missed the opportunity to express myself too often. I am committing to what the fucking papers say from now till Christmas. Let's see what happens. Yeah, have fun. I'm gonna see you later.